Good morning. How is everyone? It's Brandyce here, and we are going to talk about from wishing to writing with Marielle. And I'm just going to wait for her to pop in. And yeah, there we go. And I'm just going to wait for her to pop in and we will get started talking about writing. I'm very excited. So give it just a moment. I think it sometimes takes a hot second for people to be notified. So we'll let her get on, and that way if you're catching the replay, let us know. I'm Brandyce Stephenson. I am a mindful digital marketer, corporate wellness consultant, an all-around rad human being, and budding writer, which is why we're here. So I'm just going to wait for Marielle to appear, and I will invite her into the conversation. So as you're coming in, say hi, say hello. I think she's there. Hold on. Uh-oh. But it's not letting me invite her in. So we may have to go to plan B. We'll see. Because sometimes technology is not my friend. Yeah, it's not letting me add her. Let me see. Let me figure this out. Let's see what's happening. Yeah, I can see you, Marielle. I just can't invite you in, and I have a feeling why. So we're gonna, yeah, and I can add Mark. Yeah, so it's most likely a desktop. Oh, there we go. There she is. There she is. Hey, Mark, how are you? Thanks for being patient. We'll give it a second while it's adding her in. There she is.
Yes, you were right. It was the phone.
It
So
was the
now,
phone?
look
at you.
So now I have you on both. So now I have to turn. Yeah. So I have.
No.
Okay.
Just prop it up. You'll be fine.
Yeah, I need to figure because now the other one is on like a few seconds behind. So now I'm just confused. Okay. Let me find out how to do this. How to? Can I do this? Will it stay? No. Is this okay?
I think it looks great.
Sort
We
of.
can hear
I mean,
you. Let us know that you can hear and see us okay. Thumbs
I
and
can see
hearts.
you. I can see you. Okay.
Okay, perfect. I've got the laptop up so in case like something weird happens. So hello, welcome.
Hi. Hi. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you again also. Thanks so much for being here. I'm very excited to share with our audience about, as we aptly titled this, From Wishing to Writing. So I loved talking with you, learning more about your experience as a writing coach and an editor and a mentor. Thank you for the confirmation, Mark. I really appreciate that. So tell our audience first and foremost who you are and just a little bit about your background, please.
Yes, so I'm Marielle. I won't ask anyone to do the Dutch version of that pronunciation. I tried to teach Brandyce last week, so don't go there. Marielle is just fine. So actually I was gonna say I have an interesting background, but I think a lot of fiction writers who are also editors have the same background. Like I have an academic background, so I used to study literature. Mostly because of there's a particular idea of what you can write, and if you do not write that particular kind of literature, so now I'm actually talking literary fiction, then it's best to just study it and talk about what other people are writing instead of writing it yourself. So for a long time, I remained stuck in that academic environment, writing about other people's writing, instead of allowing myself to write. Writing for me was always, I did that during the holidays, so when I was not teaching. So my summer and my Christmas, then I was writing secretly in my room. And when somebody came in, I just had to close my computer. Like, I'm not doing anything. I'm not writing. Um, so that is so I started out as an academic editor, like I focused really on dissertations and stuff like that, and then I got back into writing, and that is when I started to explore the editing of fiction, which is now I mostly edit fiction now, and that's also how I developed into a writing coach. Like I always helped students write their bachelor and their master thesis, and then gradually, so that coaching aspect, very didactic aspect. I just sort of somehow that I still don't know exactly. I could trace that back probably, but that just sort of organically happened that I started to coach fictional and also nonfiction writers as well. So yeah, that is what I do most of the days these days.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
I know when we were talking about initially, so I shared, part of a little bit of my writing story with you where I'm one of those people, I'm sure you hear this all the time from people that you work with of, I'm like, I have a story to tell, I want to get to writing,
Yes.
but I'm like my own enemy, right? And I'm sure that there are people watching this, that is the common thing is, we stand in our own way. Like we either,
Yes.
I'm sure there are stories, and I'm going to ask you what some of the common blocks are that you see. I know mine was, just sitting down to write, right? Or we get intimidated by the blinking cursor, or we don't have time, right? The elusive, I don't have
Yeah.
time, but somehow
Yeah.
find time to scroll on Instagram for, 30 minutes, and then 30 turns into like an hour.
Yes.
So things like that,
That's a lot of writing
where
time you wasted.
that's exactly. So
Yes.
what are some of the most common blocks you see among writers? And I know we also talked about this as well. It's not just the physical writing, right? There's a lot of even mindset issues that go along with that. And so some
Yes,
people, I'm
absolutely.
sure, me included, thought it was just the actual physical writing, but it actually has a lot to do with the mental headspace you're in as well.
Or decks and tarot and stuff. Like I'm a very spiritual person as well. And what I have, one of
Right.
the decks that I have is a really small one. Can you see that? It's the Sovereign Oracle. Where's my camera? It's a Sovereign
Okay.
Oracle, and it's specifically
Very cool.
designed. It's with words and prompts to guide creative endeavors. So just
Hmm.
before I got on, I drew a card just to see. I was like, so, okay, what is this Facebook Live going to be about? What should I keep in mind? What should we focus on? And I drew this card, and I'm not, so
There you
I'm
go.
not, yes, I'm there. So
There you go.
don't think people are not reading this because I think I'm mirrored.
Backwards. Yep.
Yeah. So it's desire, which I thought links perfectly to what you just said. And then what the thing about this oracle is that it has like three little prompts, and you can just
Okay.
go with whatever works for you. So the three prompts of this particular one, I thought it was so interesting in terms of what we want to talk about. First of all, the first one is you're worthy of your desires. The second
Mm.
is be curious and explore your soul's yearnings. And the third one is let yourself want what you want, even if you're afraid you won't or will get it. And as you said, like, so what are some of the blocks? One of the blocks is that people don't actually allow themselves to write what they want to write. And that could be,
Mm.
and that's not just people who write memoirs, because then you have this whole tangle of, people. If I start writing about my own and my family, am I allowed to do that? Like, am I allowed to put this story out into the world? But it's also, as I said, for me, like I've gotten stuck in the academy for so long because of what I write myself. I write a young adult fantasy,
Mm.
which is not literary fiction at all. And I co-write LGBT romance with a friend, which is also not literary fiction. And it took me years before I was able to admit that. Um,
Mhm.
so it's very much also about allowing yourself, and that is allowing yourself, as you said, a lot of people go, but I don't have time. So it's also allowing yourself to make it a priority, to take that time away from your family, your kids, your whatever you need to do. I mean, these days we have to do all the things, and it's very
Mhm.
difficult. So what we often have is that the only way we can have a hobby is when we can tell ourselves it's good for us. I need to go to yoga because else I will lose my mind. You can't just go to yoga because you like going to yoga. Like you have to
Right.
have an
Yeah.
excuse. It's healthy, or it's this, or it's this. And for writing, yeah, well, it is, if it's your soul's yearning to write, then you must write. But can you allow yourself? So I think one of the biggest block comes down to, can you allow yourself to sit in that chair and do what you need to do? I think that would be one of the. So this card for me was just like, exactly, that is one of the things you really need to talk about. Yeah, you have this
No, I love.
desire. Yeah.
I totally love that because I think that resonates so much with me is that for a long time I didn't feel worthy, right, of writing because it's like, well, if I can't, and it's really interesting that we have to be on this topic because I was watching Mel Robbins did a live on Instagram, I think yesterday. Are you familiar with Mel Robbins and her book, The
No,
5 Second Rule?
no,
She's
no.
she wrote the 5 Second Rule, but what was interesting is that here in the US we have the New York Times bestseller, right? And that is
Mm-hmm.
like the coup de that everybody wants to go for. And that's the story she was telling, is that she really had, her goal was to be the New York Times bestseller. But when she wrote the 5 Second Rule, she wanted to self-publish it because she wanted to be in complete control. She did not want a publisher telling her what to do. She wanted to design the cover. She
Yes.
wanted complete creative control over the book. What no one told her at the time was that the New York Times does not recognize self-published books. So it didn't matter. It didn't matter what she did, because it was self-published, it was not going to be recognized. But she didn't find that out until afterwards. And it was this really interesting story where she came all the way around because of her uber educational background. That was the mark for her, and in reverse she learned that that wasn't really what it was about at all. It was really this desire to serve people and get this message out in a way.
Yeah.
It wasn't, so her original purpose, I want to be a New York Times bestseller, completely shifted when the reality happened. And she took that as a failure, you know what I mean? Initially she took it as a failure. She's like, I didn't hit the New York Times bestseller. It didn't matter that she had sold
Yeah.
more books than the New York Times bestseller or whatever. It was a really interesting story. But I think about that for my own writing, and it's like, well, it's never going to be a New York Times bestseller, right? Never, as if like I have any idea that it's never going to be a New York Times bestseller, right? If that's the desire and the dream, and that's the goal to work towards. And as my mother likes to say, like, shoot for the stars, you'll land in the clouds, sort of thing. But it's really
Yeah.
more, to your point, my soul's mission. It's like I have a story to share, I have something to tell, and I'm actually robbing the world of that service if I
Yes.
don't do it.
Exactly.
It's not about the New York
Exactly.
Times best-selling, like, who cares? Like, you know what I mean? It's really about the story. And as you said, if your soul is calling you to write, then damn it, sit down and do the writing, right?
Yes, do the work. Yeah, but also, I think like if that is your, if you need that goal in your mind, like I want to be on the New York bestseller, to get your ass in that chair, that's perfectly fine. As long as along the way you figure out why you're actually writing, and that, actually, because I know you also want to talk about NaNoWriMo, or National,
Mm-hmm.
for those who don't know what NaNoWriMo is, National Novel Writing Month. And one of the things that and that's November, so that happens within a week. And what I often hear there, like it's very competitive. The idea for National Novel Writing Month November, there are also two camps in April and July, which are much more open to what you want to do. Like you can set your own word counts, your own goals. But for the November one, it's really, and that's the original idea, is that you have to write 50,000 words by the end of the month. That's the idea for NaNoWriMo. But I also know a lot of people who don't do NaNoWriMo because they lose so many times. So they feel like, I cannot do it anyway. There's always something getting in the way. Why bother? And I think that's such a shame. And the great thing is that there's this interview. Are you familiar with Joanna Penn from the Creative Penn?
I have heard of that, yes.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
well, she's a great voice in the self-publishing world. And she has this interview with Grant Faulkner, and he's one of the big guys in the NaNoWriMo. Like I think he's one of the original people who started out NaNoWriMo. And in that interview, he also reminds everyone that the idea behind NaNoWriMo is that you have a month in which you focus. So you have an excuse. It's only 30 days. So you have an excuse to prioritize your writing. You can tell your partner, your kids, your friends, your whatever you do on a daily basis, you can tell them, for this month, I am less available because I have this goal. And he
I
says
love.
that, yeah, where people go wrong is where they go like, I only wrote 30,000 words in November, so I failed. And he's in that interview, and I was so happy because I was always very skeptical about NaNoWriMo because of the comparisonitis, people looking at each other and go like, oh, you're better than I am, and using that as an excuse not to write instead of you seeing that as a sort of a stepping stone. People use it as an excuse to not do it. And in that interview, he's also very much like, if you write 20,000 words, it's not like, oh, I only got 20,000 words, but I was supposed to get 50K. No, you have to tell yourself, well, usually I don't write 20,000 words in 1 month, so yay me,
Yes.
fabulous. And that is actually like I will admit this. I will admit this live on Facebook. I've never ever met my goal in NaNoWriMo. I can only do the camps because I set my own goals, and I said I always set very reasonable goals so I don't disappoint myself. But I still
Right.
do NaNoWriMo. And some years I think last year I only got like 15,000 words because then I got on a holiday and then I was out of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I got 15,000 words in my new book. Perfect.
Right? You're like 20,000 words closer than you were when you started. How about that?
Yes. Yes, but that's the thing. It's people get this is how it's supposed to go. This is how it's supposed to be. And if I don't do it this way, I fail. And I think that
It's so
keeps a lot of people away from that white page and that blinking cursor.
It does. If you are just joining us, we are talking right now about National Novel Writing Month in November, but we are here with Marielle, who is a writing coach, editor, and mentor. She helps you get off your ass and get into writing.
Yes.
So have any questions, please do drop them below and we will try to answer them here. And if you're watching this on the replay, if you have any questions, drop them. We'll come back and check for sure. But
Yeah.
what I love, what you just said about National is that I've signed up for it, right? I told you that you
Yeah.
I will segue real quick. You started a Facebook group, right, for people that are doing
Yes.
okay.
Yes. And there's a
So
reason behind that. Yeah, I can explain that a little bit. So in July, in April and July, you have they call it Camp NaNoWriMo. And you
okay.
have cabins. So you can get cabins up to 20 people, and then you have this little chat where you can chat with each other, and you can keep track of each other, and the stats will show your own stats, but also that of your cabin. And this NaNoWriMo, so the November one doesn't have that. It does have like so many volunteers, like so many people volunteer and organize local, regional, national events around it, meetups, etc. But I also know a lot of writers are introverts. I'm a very much of an introvert, so I don't really meet up if I don't have to. Like I'm really comfortable behind my computer. So I was really looking for a safe space where we could share struggles, could share wins, like celebrate together, keep each other accountable, like just like throw your word count in and have other people ask at the end of the day, so how did you do? So I created this group, the Accountable Wordsmiths,
Nice.
and I'm
I'm gonna
sure we
look it
can
up.
put in the link. Um,
Yep.
so yeah, that is fair. And people have like people are already signing up and people are already using it. So it's not as if we're not going to wait until NaNoWriMo. I also don't intend to get rid of it after NaNoWriMo. I think if it's I'd love to keep it and just provide people a place for accountability, because that's another thing why people don't get their ass into that chair. Keeping
Yeah.
yourself accountable, you need a lot of self-discipline. And let's
This,
face it, a lot of people, whether it comes to writing, dieting, whatever, don't have a lot of self-discipline.
that's really true. So Elaine just asked, and it segues perfectly into this. What is your number one suggestion for getting started? What's the single thing she should do first?
That's a very good question. That depends, because as we said, like what we discussed last week, is that you told me you've always known there is a book inside of you,
Hmm?
and you have these people. So that's like, so I'm gonna divide into two different groups, and of course it's a little more complex than that. But you have the people who are like, I've always known there is this story inside of me, and I also know what it is. And this is just a book that one day I'm gonna write. But there are also people who just like to write, but they aren't yet sure what it is they want to write about. So first of all,
Yeah.
it very much depends on who you are. Do you know what you're gonna write about? If you know what you're gonna write about, you need to sit down and start doing the research and the brainstorming. That is if you,
Beautiful.
so that's if you know, or even if you know which direction you want to go in, go explore that. if you
Love it.
don't know yet what you're going to write about, my suggestion would be you go on Pinterest or just you go online and Google and you find some writing prompts and just start writing. And one day, you'll know this is what I need to do. This is what I need to write about. Actually, I have a book here, which is a great. I'm always waving books around when I'm live. So this is a book by Alyssa Archer. And it's called Dreamtime. And what she did,
Mhm.
she published. Just gonna take a sip.
Okay.
Um, she published. What she did is she took the year, she divided in four. And she wrote a book for every quarter. So this is the first book. So this is about what you do before you start your novel. And she does the same thing. She says, okay, whether you know what you're going to write about, but you still need to start, or whether you don't know what you write about, but you do know you want to write, you can use the book both ways. She has for every day, like she has like you start this on a Saturday, and then on Saturday she does this, and on Sunday she does this, and then on Mondays, and she has writing prompts for every. So it's actually 90 chapters. And she has writing
Nice.
prompts for every day, and she's like, okay, if you don't know what you're writing about, use the writing prompt. Just go through the book until you know, yes, this is my topic. This is what I'm going to write about. This is the book I need to write. If you do know, if
Mhm.
you start out with this book knowing what you want to write, she says, okay, use my writing prompts, adapt them to your particular story, and use the prompts to develop your story, to brainstorm about your story. Um, so yeah, so it very much depends on where you are, but whatever you do, you need to start writing. And if you don't know what you're writing yet, start writing little blogs, look at the news and start writing like responses to that. Just keep that muscle. It's a muscle. You need to start doing it. But writing prompts, I know there are people like I'm not a writing prompt person. Um, but then I always knew what I wanted to write. So I think that's a difference for me. But I have a friend that she writes the greatest short stories, and they're all from random writing prompts that she found on the internet.
That's so neat.
Yeah.
So Alexa says thank you for sharing that book. Writing prompts is exactly what she was looking for. So,
Oh,
so
perfect. Oh, I see it
so
now. Yeah, it's there's a little delay, but hi Elaine, I now see your answer. Yeah,
no
yeah,
worries. And I also think, and I shared this with you when we spoke, even writing simple things. So I shared with you that I had started writing poetry, right?
yes,
Specifically, form of haiku, which is 17 syllables, folks, like 575. And it's a challenge for me. But it also is working that creative muscle, as you said, on a daily basis. So every day, like I get inspired and write a haiku based on whatever inspired me that day, whatever comes to mind. Sometimes I wake up immediately with one in my head. Sometimes it's at the end of the day. It just depends. But it is
yep,
what Stephen Pressfield refers to as the resistance when it comes to writing. And I heard Seth Godin speak on this topic as well. So Seth's work, very much like you said, get to writing, was to find a low level way to overcome this resistance. And for me,
yes,
it became
yeah,
this 100-day project that I said, you know what, I'm going to write poetry every day for 100 days. And you know what, I'm going to haikus. I like haikus. I have a slight obsession, and I will tell you, and I don't know if I shared this with you or not, but it's a fun story. It started with airplanes. I don't know what it is. When I get on an airplane, I get inspired to write some haikus. I don't know why. Particularly if I'm on the airline here in the US, JetBlue, I would like literally tweet to JetBlue their JetBlue haiku. I'm like, here's your JetBlue haiku for my like trip. And that's where it started. And
oh,
so
that's
to take that,
brilliant. Yeah, that's really good.
it
Yeah,
Jennifer can't write a haiku to save her life. But so it's been this way to help me sit down, like you said, in front of a blank piece of paper and go, okay. And it makes then writing the blog, writing the book, writing the next thing a little more manageable, because it's not as intimidating, because now I've been working that muscle a little
yeah,
more. So I love that you brought up that book and the prompts, and to just, sit down, like put your butt in the chair and
yeah,
just write.
yeah.
Do you have any advice around, because I'm sure there's some people out there that are like, but it's going to be awful. Like my first draft is going to be terrible. Like that's just life,
Yes,
right? Like you just
it's
accept that
it's
it's
supposed to
terrible,
be.
and
It's
what do
supposed
you
to be
do?
terrible. Yeah, it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I like. Oh, I'll look it up. Because there's this great quote, and that's about crap makes great fertilizer. And that is it is a writing quote. It is a writing quote. Yeah, but that is the process. And that's the funny thing is I know so many, especially in the self-publishing world, there is so much stress on being prolific and publishing as many books as you want. So people started to be like, oh my God, I have to edit this book. Yes, editing is part of the process. You write that first shitty draft. It is always going to be a first shitty draft. You don't want to know what my work looks like when it's in first draft. But I don't care about that. I just care about the fact that at the end of my writing, I often write in sprints, so I take 20-minute sprints, and then I
Ooh,
take a
okay.
break. And I do that with people online as well. It's one of the reasons why I created the accountable wordsmiths, so that people could find other people to sprint with in their time zones because we're all over the world. Um, so yeah, I tend to do 20-minute sprints. I cannot focus on anything else, no Facebook, no phone.
Nice.
And it's just about getting as much words done. And it doesn't matter if you have to delete all of it, at least the story will be there. And then you have the time to sit back and see, okay, so this is what I came up with. So now I can shuffle the pieces around. Now I can see what I need to get rid of. And then I think one of the things why people get stuck is that when they start writing, they write a few first chapters, which are always the middle is where it gets tough. People can write the people often know where they begin. They know sort of where it needs to end, but they get really afraid of the middle part. Sometimes we call that like the muggy middle, like oh, the saggy middle. So how do you keep that interesting?
Our
So
French.
a lot what you yeah, so what you see a lot is that people they write that introduction, the first 6, 7 chapters, and they keep going back over it and they just keep rewriting them, they keep perfecting it, but they never actually get through chapter 8. And my advice was that first draft is going to be shitty. So you start at the beginning and you go to the end and you don't look back. You just sit down and you do it.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. And
so
no matter
smart.
if you go wrong, like no matter if you have to fix it, that is just part of the process. Yeah.
So, in order to help with this process, we talked about your accountability group that you have around National Novel Writing Month specifically, but you also have an upcoming program for budding
Yes.
writers, all existing writers that really want to,
Yeah.
take themselves seriously. So, can you talk a bit about that?
Yes.
Because when we discussed about your program is it's so different from other writing programs I've seen out there. I really love the way you have it set up. So can you talk more about that for anybody who wants a little more accountability, would like to work with you maybe on a deeper level of it, and getting, again, from wishing to actually writing? Talk a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, first of all, one of the reasons why I set up the program is that there are a lot of books out like this like this book by Alyssa Archer. It's really fabulous. Um, but at the end of the day, a lot different people have different reasons why they don't write. Like there are major themes like are you allowing yourself to write? What are you do you have things that keep getting in the way, like your family, your business? Do you have limiting beliefs around creativity that keep you from writing? Um, Whatever it is, like there are some universal themes, but at the end, these universal themes become very personalized. So they have different origins, and they have different solutions for you. Also people have different goals. So one of the reasons why I created my writing program, which is it's a 3-month one-on-one writing program. So I take you by the hand basically, and we work together for 3 months, wherever you are in the process, and we'll aside, making sure that you set your goals and you keep to your goals. I will be your accountability partner, and I will also advise you to find accountability partners in your environment, of course. So we go through that 3 months, actually 3.5 months, because there will be the Christmas break. So it's actually 3.5 months. Um, yeah, yeah, just gonna not gonna. I mean, you can work. I mean, I advise you to keep writing every day, but you like. I also know what the holidays are like, so let's be fair. Um, so yeah, so one of the reasons why I wanted to do this a bit more customized is because I know that people have different goals and they have different struggles, even though the struggles are universal to a certain point of view. The way they interfere with your personal circumstances, that is very specific. So I want to dig with individuals deeper and see how we can create a writing habit that is that's sort of accustomed to what you're going through, what your life looks like, and what your particular goals like. Not everyone has the same goals. Not everyone wants to write 12 books a year. Some people want to write their life stories, and that comes with completely different struggles. I'm always very much about custom and keeping programs and coaching open. Like I don't have a particular, this is how I'm coaching. I always look at what the client needs. And that's like I always start off with worksheets, like okay, just figure out who you are, where you're at, what your struggles are, what your goals are these realistic goals or not, and where do these goals come from? Like same with limiting beliefs, I always want to know, do you have these goals because of the environment you're in, because you see that other people have them? Are they truly your goals? Is that really what you want to aim for? So the whole 3 months is for us to discover where you're at, where you want to be, and how you can get there. And then of course what we want to do at the end is that the whole program is geared towards making sure that people create a habit, like a plan, so that they keep writing after we're done. So they have this personalized, tailor-made program that keeps track of who they are, where. So yeah, you have your personal, you have your really personal action plan to keep writing and to keep taking yourself seriously.
I love it. Jennifer had a question about when it comes to blogs, is anything game, or should she stay true to the main message? And that, I mean, that goes for anybody. So do you, when it comes to blogging, do you think, you know, because we hear so often in business, you know, ideal audience, your ideal client, write to them. But when it comes to blogs, what is your on, do you just stick to that, or do you just, does anything go?
Well, so I think somewhere in between would be my answer, because I do, like, if you have a blog, there is always a kind of branding. There's always a kind of want to put out, but I think it's very dangerous if you do not acknowledge the fact that you can develop. So your interests can develop, your whatever you want to talk about can develop. You will attract a certain audience. So if you just start writing about everything at the same time, all of a sudden you will lose that audience. It sort of reminds me of the discussion I have a lot with people about pen names. And can you write different genres under the same name? Or do you need a different name for every book? And people are divided about that. And I would say if there's still an overlap, you can use the same name. But the moment you really, so there's a reason I'm not writing my romance under a pen name because I'm ashamed of it, but I'm writing under a pen name because I co-write, and also because my writing partner writes literary fiction, and I write young adult fantasy fiction. So the romance as a genre, and specifically as a subgenre, the LGBT romance, doesn't really fit with the rest that we're writing. So if we would publish that under our own names, your audience will have a particular expectation. And as long as you keep within, so there is a little bit of gray area possible around that, but as long as you stick within that, you're fine. Like as long as you stick to that. But if you really start talking about something completely different, then there is a chance that you'll find another audience, but you'll lose the audience you have. You lose part of the audience you have. Yeah. So it's
I love that.
You can also test it a little bit. Yeah.
That's always good. Yeah, because I think you'll find out, right, as you write, what people are responding to, what's engaging, what's not, that sort of thing. So I think that's great. And she has a follow-up question about when writing about heavy stuff, is there a place for humor? I personally think there is. I think humor helps lessen things, but what are your thoughts on that?
There's always a place. Yeah, no, there's always a place for humor. Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, it's also again it's a genre question. I mean, there will be genres. There will be genres, and the moment you start adding humor, it will become a subgenre. But in general, my personal preference is it's very much a coping mechanism for me. So I enjoy it. I enjoy, and also I like, there are times so you have to be serious about certain things. So it also depends again on your audience. Like if you're writing to a particular audience, about something very serious, the tone has a lot to do with how you are read. So the moment you start using humor in a particular way, that could also sort of do away with the message you're trying to send. So it very much depends on your message. But then again, if humor is very much a part of how you deal with these things, then I would not remove it from your writing, because then you remove yourself away from your writing, and your message should always be part of who you are. So if that is your way of writing, then please keep it.
I love that. Jennifer, I'm so glad that was helpful to you. I want to be respectful of your time, of our viewers' times and everything. So we are at 10:38. But this has been, I have benefited so much from this conversation with you, Marielle. I'm so happy that we connected and that we could share this and help some people get off the blank page and into something more substantial. I have posted a link to your Wordsmith page where they can get in touch with you and find out about your 3-month program. I've also posted the link to your accountability group for National November Writing Month. I will be in there. Because I signed up for it, and there are some groups here where I live, but I absolutely adore you and connecting with people as well. So I will be there. So check both of those out.
Yeah, and I'm very present.
Have any more questions?
Yeah, I'm very present in the group. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, so if people like because I'm going to be very present in that group and guide people through it. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love it. I look forward to sharing that space with you. And whether I write 10,000 words or the full 50,000, I will be one word closer, one word closer to the book.
You will be, well, yes. You will be one word closer than not doing it at all. So just do it, yeah.
Exactly. So if you have any more questions, do drop them below. Get in touch with Marielle. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your joy. You are such a beautiful soul. I am so happy that I got to know you. And we shout out to Sherry, sharing you with another
Sherry.
Group that we're in.
Sherry brought us together.
Yeah. Shout out to Sherry. So thank you so much. I hope everybody has a great Friday. This is the perfect thing. You're moving into the weekend, people. Make some time for writing. And I look forward to seeing some of you in the accountability group. And do get in touch with Marielle if you want some deeper, if you're ready to take writing to a next level, whether you are just beginning or you've already started. Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you, my love. I will talk to you soon. Bye.
So bye-bye. See you in the other group.
Have a wonderful rest of your day. Yes. Yeah. Bye.
You as well. Bye-bye. Bye.